Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. He Sewell on a first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking, pressured, hit from behind, take it down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day one.
No respect.
Well, what's happening, Detroit Lions fans? It's Will with Rocked On Detroit Lions. I'd like to welcome you all into the Friday edition. We're doing the breaking it down of the Saints and the Lions game. But before we get to that, I have a small disclaimer that I have to display. So bear with me for 60 seconds. It's going to pop up, and then we'll jump right back into the show. Welcome to Rocked On Detroit Lions, your new number one source for the truth, transparency, and honest opinions about the Detroit Lions. We have a small disclaimer before we start today's show. We are not affiliated with the NFL, the Detroit Lions, or any other podcast or media company or network. We are fan-driven, fan-supported, and an independent media network working hard for you each and every single day. And that is simply why we are the ultimate podcast and YouTube channel for all diehard fans of the brand new Detroit Lions. My name is Will Rock. I'm thrilled to be your host as we dive deep into the heart of the Detroit Lions, exploring everything from the draft to the Super Bowl. Join me each week as we dissect the latest games, analyze the standout performance, and discuss the team's journey to dominance. Whether you bleed Honolulu blue or you are new to the Pride, this podcast is your one Pride destination. Here we go. Let's get back to the show. All right, sorry about that, but there has been some developments with the NFL teams, podcasts, Facebook channels, YouTube channels, you name it. So we just want to protect and cover all bases and make sure that there's no confusion out there. We'd hate to see, something happen. So according to the legal people that guide us, that's what we need to do. So, hey, welcome in Friday edition of Breaking It Down on Rocked On Detroit Lions. As always, tonight we will be opening up the phone lines, probably 20 minutes or so. We'll be accepting some phone calls. Should probably get the phone connected, right? Make sure that I'm ready for you. So tonight we're going to break down a little bit of offense, defense, just kind of talk about what we're looking at on Sunday. And I got to tell you right away, look, I'm looking for a bounce back win. This is redemption weekend for the Lions. The Lions have not lost 2 games in a row all season long. And we don't expect to start this weekend. No, I don't believe this is a trap game. I heard that somewhere today. I read that, and I don't see that happening. The Saints are kind of down a little bit. I mean, they have quite a few injuries. They have some notable injuries. Why don't we just go through that right after this? So game is at 1 p.m. on Fox. Game will be at the Caesars Dome in New Orleans. And the Lions opening odds are sitting at minus 3.5 right now, favorites. And I expect them to win by a lot more than that, but something's telling me this might be a closer game than what we want. I don't have a prediction just yet. I'm going to wait. But welcome in, everybody. It's just me tonight, so I will do my best with the chat. And I already see John Doe, Detroit in the house. Lions team villains. All right, buddy. Nice to see you in. And I'll just remind everybody, we'll open up phone lines here in just a little bit. I'll expand my screen, and the number will be on the bottom of my picture. All right, so let's start with the injury report. This was about 3:30, 4 o'clock today, so it is the latest and greatest. The biggest name is Cameron Jordan for the Saints. Dan Campbell had a few things to say about him today, and I'll go into that too. But he's still listed as questionable, and he did not practice today. I don't follow his weekly injury report, so I don't know how often he does practice or doesn't practice, but Cam doesn't get hurt, he doesn't miss games. So it'd be unlikely that he misses this weekend's game. We will see. There's 4 guys that are out for the Saints. Marcus May, safety. Running back Kendre Miller. Wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. Linebacker Pete Werner. So everyone already knows that Michael Thomas is out, which is huge for the Lions because our secondary is, terrible right now. Has been playing terrible. They have the opportunity to be great when they want to be great, but and we'll talk more about that too. A couple more questionable Saints injuries. You got Blake Grupp, Eric McCoy, Chris Olave, which is another big one. He's in concussion protocol. He was a full participant today, but if something changes over the next 48 hours, he could be out. And I'll tell you right now, if Chris Olave is out, this has to be, game, set, match, done. They just don't have anybody else to throw to. And Derek Carr is just not a good quarterback anymore. He has not been himself. He started out great when he entered the league, played pretty well for a few seasons, but between the injuries and just not having a great team surrounding him, he just hasn't played well. Last 2 guys, Ryan Ramczyk, which is one of their offensive tackles. He's one of their best pieces on the offensive line, to be honest with you. One of the only pieces, along with Andrus Pete, who was also listed. But both of those guys are full participants, probably getting some rest this week. For the Lions, no secret that Hendon Hooker's out. He's still, nursing that knee. He just got back to practice this week. Extremely, extremely excited to see Hendon Hooker practicing. And as many of you all know, I called Hendon Hooker to the Lions during the draft and before the draft. And I'm glad that he's finally getting his shot, and the Lions are holding true on what they said they would do in the beginning of the season, which is to get him activated and to not toll his first season, and basically double up his first season on his contract. The big one is Alex Anzalone. He is definitely listed as doubtful, but more than likely he's out, and I don't even know why it's listed as doubtful, to be honest with you, because all the reports that came out today and yesterday said that he's out for multiple weeks with this hand-wrist injury, which it's not good. But we're going to see what Jack Campbell can do. Jonah Jackson, he's listed as questionable, but he was a full participant. Now Dan Campbell had some things to say about this too, and I'll tell you when I get to that section. I'll talk about it in just a moment. Some interesting body language. And if you guys know me by now, you know that I key in on the body language when I watch these press conferences, because I feel like it tells more than the words if you know how to read the body language. Dan Campbell was telling a lot. So we'll talk about that in just a moment too. The rest of the guys are listed as unspecified full participants, but Ifeatu Melifonwu, David Montgomery, who's been battling banged up foot this week, Frank Ragnow, who's usually just getting rest, and Tracy Walker, who banged up his shoulder during the game last weekend. So, all right, we're going to move forward. Let me make sure I get this disclaimer off here so it doesn't try to pop up again. And let's talk about today's press conference. So Dan Campbell was kind of smitten today on Jonah Jackson. Had a few bleak answers about Jonah. Basically said, he was working a little bit on Thursday in practice. It seemed as though what I gathered from Dan Campbell is that he wasn't real happy with Jonah. He did say that Jonah's a good player, and it helps the team to have him, back and definitely in the lineup. And, the offensive line needs him, yada, 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 right? Typical coach stuff. But the body language is just it just looked like Dan Campbell was pissed off today about something, right? I mean, he looked like he wasn't happy with Jonah and this wrist thing that's going on. I mean, there's a couple of press conferences this week where he basically said, and I'm just paraphrasing here, it's not exact quotes, basically saying, well, Jonah will play when he tells me he's ready to play. But he didn't say it in a tone that was, well, we're just waiting on, Jonah to get back and the trainers to clear him kind of tone. It was kind of like Jonah's screwing around and he should be playing. And I guess it's up to him to let us know if he's going to play. I can't tell him to play. it was just weird, very awkward. And I don't know. I just felt different the last few press conferences. I think Dan Campbell is having a rough week. You can kind of see that every press conference this week has been rough for him. I think he's really beside himself after the loss on Thanksgiving. Shouldn't have happened. We got our butts kicked bad. And maybe the score doesn't say it all, but the on-field play sure did. And I don't think that he's real happy with AG. And that's just my personal opinion. I don't know that for a fact. So he did say that, or he was asked if this was a pain issue for Jonah. And he said it was a functional issue. So at least that means that something, functional with the wrist in being able to use the hand has been a problem. So even if he gets in this weekend and he plays, I mean, what's it going to take for him to, end up back out of the game? And are they going to try to wrap it? Are they going to brace it? What are they going to do to make sure that he doesn't, hurt the wrist again? I mean, technically offensive linemen aren't supposed to grab, right? They're not supposed to hold. Why couldn't you just tape it up? Bounce over to the chat for just a second. Chris says, Jonah potentially being back is huge. It is. We really need it. I couldn't agree more, my man. Mile Marker 301 says he made it. Yay. Hey, nice to have you in Mile Marker 301. So what's everybody doing today? You guys watching some of the college games? I figured this is probably going to be a downer show because you got all the college championships on tonight, and that's okay. Maybe some people will watch it later on tonight or tomorrow. There's definitely a lot of time over the weekend. Lauren McQuaig, nice to see you back. And thank you for all the comments and chats on the YouTube channel this week too, Lauren. You do an excellent job. Shahid is out for sure. Thomas is out. Yep. If Olave is out, that's 1,750 yards of offense out on the receiving game. That's produced 2,600 yards all season. Saints are in trouble. Yes, I couldn't agree more, Lauren. That's what I'm saying. It's like game, set, match. If Olave is out, good night. Mile Marker, where'd that just go? I think MCDC, his personal history is adding pressure to New Orleans since they know him. I've got a comment in here too. It's towards the, end of tonight's show where I talk about something in the, going back to New Orleans. I called it nostalgia. We'll get there in a minute. Captain Jack gets a sack for sure, says Chris Mason. Nice to see you back, Chris. I hope so, man. I'm really hoping this kid steps up and all the confusion is out of this game for him. He did have some pretty rough times, in at middle linebacker and calling the defenses in training camp and even through preseason. And then he really never got much work back at it because Alex Anzalone's pretty much been the man running the ship. So we'll see. They kicked Jack out to the Sam after the Houston injury. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. C-Bell says, yo, right back at you, C-Bell. And Chris Mason says, Jameson Winston is starting over Derek Carr. Is that a question, or do you know that for a fact? I haven't heard this. I have not heard that at all. That would be news to me. And I don't know if Bohanna is playing, C-Bell. I know he's not injured. I know that, but I don't know if he's playing. I don't think we're going to find out anymore until, Sunday morning, the 10:30 game designation, the final game designation, and then the activations for the week. We'll find out. I don't know if that comes out tomorrow or not. I can't remember. I usually check on Sunday mornings. So let me jump into some more about Cam Jordan next. Dan Campbell said he's a specimen. He never seems to get hurt, and he always shows up. So that's what has me, pretty much betting that Cam's going to play this weekend. Campbell referred to him as a Hall of Fame player, and his work ethic is the same in practice as it is in a game, that he shows up ready to go and works no matter how he feels. Dan expects Cam Jordan to be in the game on Sunday. I do too. But the way that Dan Campbell talks about this guy, it's, he's like the consummate pro that kind of, if you think about amon-ra, I mean, the way that he practices, the way that he plays, what he does after practice, how he takes care of his body, how he continues to train to be the best. That's Cam Jordan too. Maybe up a couple levels, just because amon-ra has only been doing it for a couple of seasons now, and Cam's been doing it for a while. He also spoke on Taysom Hill, and he said that Covering Hill is not easy because you just don't know where or how he's going to be used. Dan said it's a conundrum to deal with Taysom Hill with his versatility, multiple use of personnel groups, whether it's tight end, slot, or quarterback. He referred to Hill as a modern day Iron Man and said that the Lions need to pay close attention to Hill this Sunday. Chris says, Cam Jordan is great. Thankfully, we have Panay, the best tackle in the game. Yeah, I feel the same way. I just hope that Panay doesn't get harassed like he did last Sunday. I've never seen Panay get thrown around like I did last week. I mean, he ragdoll, you know the term, thrown around like a ragdoll. I seen Panay get tossed a few times, and my mouth about to hit the floor. I couldn't believe it because that's a big man to move. And it doesn't look like Panay's 350 pounds, but he carries all of 348 on that frame. That's a big boy. That's a lot of weight. And he's tall. I think he's like 6'7" or something like that. Big arms, long arms. So he also spoke on Hendon Hooker, which he said, it's good to get him involved and for Hendon to feel part of the team finally. He likes Hooker's smooth delivery and that his poise and arm is exactly why the Lions brought him in. It's the beginning stages. He wanted everybody to know that. It's the beginning stages, but it's exciting to have him back and part of the team finally. He's always been part of the team, but, Hendon's kind of been on the outside looking in. He's not able to be involved in any of the practices or the walkthroughs. Pretty much can do classroom work, and that's about it. It's kind of like, you get to be there, but you're really not there. You can get training, you can get treatment, but that's really it in classroom work. So Hendon's on his way. I'm excited to see him work. Bruce Irvin. So this is the big one. Like, we're all waiting to see if Bruce is going to get his shot. And from what we've been listening to all week long, that this was going to be the game. Dan didn't make us feel so sure today. He said that he's been coming along well. He's every week he's been getting his football legs underneath him a little bit more and more and working on his speed. The Lions have been working him in, and he's ready from a playbook perspective if needed, if he's needed. As long as they can feel that he can go physically, like he's 100% there physically, that the traits about Irvin are top notch, that he knows how to practice. He's a pro's pro. He does things the right way. He takes great care of his body, and he's a craftsman with a very quick first step, but it's his hands that he loves the most. That Dan says his hands are what help him be great. His hand fighting techniques, and of course his big bend. I really hope that Aiden Hutchinson is buddying up with Bruce Irvin while he's there. Because the one thing that Aiden really needs to learn is some better hand fighting techniques. If Aiden can just stay off the tackles, not really engage other than when he has to do the bull rush, but learn those hand fighting techniques to just, fight, chop, swim, and get around with better bend, he'll learn that from Irvin. Irvin was one of the best to do it, even in his younger years. He's a little older now, but he still has it all up here, He can teach. All right, let me get back in the chat here. He says, let's see, Chris Mason, Panay was sick. I haven't heard that one either, Chris. Phil says, we need Pascal so badly. Why isn't he playing a bigger role? I really couldn't answer that one. But Pascal has been kind of slow to, mature maybe in the NFL rank. He's been injured quite a bit, and I feel like that's really slowed him down. I'm not going to bring up politics or anything like that, but there is something to be said about any of the guys that really were going through that COVID kind of year. They're a little bit slower to progress in the NFL. They missed a lot in college. Anybody that was kind of coming out around that year, even the year after, it was really tough for them to transition, and they missed a ton of training. A ton of one-on-one, a ton of work, on the field. It was just like what Hendon Hooker's been doing. You're there, but you're not there. It's just everything over Zoom, and you're going out and working out in your own backyard. So there's something to be said about that. I think a lot of players that came out around the same time that Pascal did have all kind of struggled. There's been a few that have done pretty well. But anybody that was not, a sure shot, baller in this league has been struggling a little bit. So if that answers your question, I kind of feel that that's why he's been a little slow to progress. C. Bell says, if this linebacker trio makes a difference, we should roll with it moving forward. I agree with that, man. But see, that's weird too, though. Like Anzalone is not the issue. He's the best performing linebacker in this group. And it's not even close. And that's what's sad because his overall grade, I think was, I just did a video the other day. It's like 77, I think overall, but his tackling was like 38.2 or 43.9, his PFF grade. So that's where Anzalone's having trouble is tackling. And I kind of made a little funny in the video. And I said, well, if his hand, isn't helping him tackle, does he really need it? Just throw a club on that thing and go. Like, what are you worried about? If it's a hand, you can still knock down a ball. You can still tackle with one arm. So why not? Maybe you could have used him as a spy the entire game. All right. Chris says, Phil, because he's been underperforming when he does play. Okay. Phil, how is he hurt or is the scheme wrong? So back to that, Phil, I think it's been a little bit of both. I think Pascal's been injured. He's also been slow to progress. And scheme may not be fitting him. He may not be fitting the scheme. You guys could say it both ways. Lauren says, I see our O-line back in form in this game. I think our running game will do well. Bruce Irvin, our inside linebacker coach in the media scrum, had good things to say about Irvin. They all have. He's just the consummate pro. I'm really excited to see, at least what he can do to rub off on, some of the other guys in the locker room. I'm going to skip down a few here. Lauren says Pascal has missed 2 games through 6 from injuries. I think his back. Yep, he had some back. He also had some leg issues. Pascal missed the Chargers game from injury as well. He hasn't been 100%. He really hasn't. But it's been ever since he's been in, or at least a part of the Lions organization. He's just been consistently hurt. Last guy I had on this list right here is Jack Campbell, and then I'll move on to some rankings. Jack Campbell's, he's doing well with the green dot. I did a video yesterday where he's earned the right, or I did it today. He's earned the right to wear the green dot on Sunday. And I'm hoping that it's the right move. I was really hoping to see Malcolm come back into the middle, so to speak, because that's his natural position too. And he has more time in this defense. He's also a sure tackler, one of the best tacklers on this team. And I think what the Lions have decided is, look, we brought Jack in, we brought him in to be a middle linebacker, and yet we still had Anzalone, which never made sense to me. You just, you signed Anzalone for 3 seasons at middle linebacker, and then you go out and get a middle linebacker. It just weird, right? Unless they really thought one of them could be kicked outside, which I don't know if that's really Jack, I don't think he's going to perform well at the Sam over the long haul. I think his natural position at middle linebacker suits him better, but that's just my opinion. But Malcolm has been very consistent. He did very well last season. He was one of the highest graded rookies. And he just, he showed it. He showed that he had the mental aptitude for it, and he got everybody in, the right position when it was his time to call the plays. So that's what I was hoping for. Look, Jack's got to step up. It's time for him to show what he's got, and Jack loves it. He wants to show what he has, and that's what he had said. That's what Dan Campbell said in the press conference, that he wants to show everybody he can do it, and he's ready for the challenge. And AG kind of echoed that same sentiment. So they've got confidence in him. They really did. Re-signed Anzalone for veteran experience. Absolutely. And he's somebody that's been inside this system for almost his entire career, which is something that I'll note here in just a few moments. If I missed any of your messages, I apologize. I'm going to do the best I can tonight. Matter of fact, I really want to get the YouTube one to pop out. I've never had luck with it. Give me just a second. Let me see if I can get it to pop out. There it is. And it has messages. Look at that. minor things I enjoy in life. All right. Beautiful. I think I'll be able to read that a lot easier. I don't know how to show them on the screen yet, but I'll figure that one out later. So let's go to some rankings. The Saints rankings. I put a lot of information together, just kind of paint you guys a picture of what we're working with this weekend. So team defense, Saints are coming in at 12th. They're giving up 320 yards per game. They've allowed 23 TDs on the season. Their passing defense is 8th with 196 yards per game and 19 TDs allowed on the season. I think the Lions' biggest issue this weekend is going to be the Saints' passing defense. And, yep, Phil, I see that. Yep, playing three ways for Malcolm. I think that's what I was saying a minute ago. Is I think that's the main reason why Jack's really going to get the opportunity over Malcolm this weekend is because he's playing offense, defense, special teams, and they're trying to limit, probably how much exposure he really has and how much time on the field, he's really exposed to, because that's a ton. And you're right. You don't ever see that very often. Deion Sanders is probably one of the only guys that I can remember doing it in my lifetime where he played all three sides of the game. All right. Malcolm in the middle, Malcolm in the slot, Malcolm on special teams. Yeah, it's funny. So Saints defense, their passing defense is legit. Like this is a tough defense through the air. They rank first in passes defensed with 72 on the season. And their rush defense, though, is only ranked 23rd. They're giving up 124 yards per game with 7 TDs allowed this season. And I feel like that's going to change a lot for the Saints this weekend. Reason why is the Lions' offensive rushing is 6th, and we're putting up 136.9 yards per game with 17 TDs on the ground already this season. Monty is ranked 13th in the league, and Gibbs is ranked 25th in the league. Could only imagine if they hadn't missed any time this season where they would be. So the Saints scoring defense is ranked 8th. They're only giving up 20.2 points per game. So I really don't know how they're, not winning games other than they're just not putting up points. When you're only allowing 20.2 points a game, your defense is doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's the magic number, but they're sitting at 5-6 right now in the NFC South. So they still have an opportunity to win the South over the Falcons. And they lost the game last weekend to the Saints, and the Falcons put a ton of yards on the ground. And I'm expecting, pretty much the same thing for the Lions, this Sunday. All right, what do we got in here? I'm going to keep rolling. I see you guys are just kind of conversating. Turnovers. So the Saints are second in interceptions, and that's what I'm most worried about. And I'm not worried about Goff, throwing the ball, into the Saints' hands this weekend. I'm really not. I think that's been a product of bad offensive line play over the last few weeks, a lot of pressure. And Goff kind of making some dumb moves where he's just not getting down with the ball or not throwing it away quick enough. Now, maybe he didn't feel like he had enough time to throw it away, and he was just trying to make something happen with his feet, which I'd prefer he doesn't. I've said it time and time again that Goff kind of looks like a giraffe when he runs, very awkward, and someone needs to teach him how to slide before he gets hurt. But anyway, I'll digress on that. I really just think that Goff is going to have a good game this weekend. I think our offensive line is going to do fine. And when you keep Goff clean, he's able to pick apart defenses. And I'm really not worried about the fact that the Saints are pick artists. I mean, they really are. Yep, Lauren McQuaig, I'm going to jump into the Saints O-line in just a minute too. But yeah, she says, or he says, I can't see. Ranked 27th. Kamara has 119 carries, 457 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. His numbers reflect a bottom 5 O-line. It's a big part of the Saints' woes this year. Yeah, it is. Their O-line's terrible. They only have 2 bookends right now. And you'd see that they run a lot of outside zone. And I'll get into that in just a second, too. Offensive side for the Saints. So they're 12th on offense. They're putting up 347 yards per game, 22 TDs on the season. Passing, they're 11th with 242 yards per game and 13 TDs on the season. Rushing, 19th with 104.4 yards per game, 7 TDs on the season. Scoring, they're 19th, averaging 20.8 points per game. So when you compare the offense and the defense, your defense is allowing 20.2 and the offense is only putting up 20.8. And I'm going to point this out because if you remember last season, the Lions were in a very similar situation. The offense was putting up 26.7, 26.6 points per game. The defense was allowing like 25.7. So they're barely separated by a point. Well, if your defense is allowing almost just as much points as your offense is putting on the board, you're not going to win games. So when I, talk about the magic number being 20 on defense, that means that your defense has to keep teams below 20 points to win games, expecting that your offense can at least put up 3 scores, 3 TDs, or 2 TDs and a couple of field goals. But really, you're expecting your offense to be able to put up at least 26 points per game. And you're seeing that this season. Our offense is doing the same thing, 26.7 points per game. And the defense, the last stats that I looked at, which I should still have them here, I think we're giving up about 23 points per game. Let me see here. Yeah, 23.5. So we're separated by a couple of points, and we've had a few close wins. All right, let me get into the chat. So you guys are asking some questions here. A lot of questions. Looks like Penny will flatten them like Bannock's. I don't know what that means, Chris. What's the DPJ issue in your opinion? I just don't think he's acclimated yet. There's really, he came in at a wrong time. And we were getting thrashed. He's, been in, probably 2 of the worst games our offense has played. The Packers in the game before that, and then, the Chargers, I don't even think he got into that game. And if he did, he did get into that game. I think that's that was the Bears game where he slipped behind the defender and Goff threw the second interception. So I think he got in the Bears game, and that was a rough game for our offense. And then he got in the Packers game, and that was a rough game for our offense. So I think it's just when our offense is clicking and we're able to actually utilize him, I think that Goff will. But, he's only been with the team a few weeks now, 4 or 5 weeks? He'll be fine. Quite honestly, I hope that he's somebody that the Lions bring back next season because he still has a lot to prove. All right, I'm going to keep moving on. The bugs thing hurting the team. If so, why keep them? Phil, what's that all about? I've been talking about bugs a little bit here or there. I don't know if he's causing any locker room issues. It's been speculated that him and AG got into it, and that kind of spilled over into the locker room. And at one point, they sent bugs away. Again, it's all speculation. We've spoken about it. We put a few videos, up about it, but until I have, concrete evidence, from somebody that there's been some real issues, I don't think I'm going to go down the what if gossip game. I want to hear it from Dan Campbell. I don't want to hear it through anybody else because you just don't know. You can only speculate. And I don't want to do that about our team. Not right now. There's enough of that going on in regular media. So, all right, I'm going to keep plowing through this. I apologize if I'm not getting to all your messages here. So Lions rankings, like I was saying, our team defense, we're 10th in yards per game, 318.8 with 30 TDs allowed. So Phil, yeah, I don't know if it's a fact. All I can tell you is what I've heard through the grapevine, and that's about it. So Lions pass defense, we're 20th in yards per game, 227.5 with 19 TDs allowed. I'm really not that worried about our secondary this weekend. Again, Derek Carr or someone said that Jameson was starting, and I haven't heard that. So if that's a fact, I haven't heard that. I mean, I just looked up a minute ago and made sure that Derek was starting. Unless something's changed. But he doesn't have anybody to throw to, especially if Olave is out, is what I was saying. I think that our DBs are finally going to get a break. Passes defense, we're 26. These Lions have got to get their hands up. They've got to go after the ball. I was listening to Glover Quinn a few weeks ago on his podcast. It's about the only one I really listened to. He was talking about these DBs needing to go to hand school. And if you're at least put a hand up, try to swat the ball away, or instead of staying, close to the receiver, go after the ball, get a couple of hands up. Don't put one up, put two up. Try to intercept the ball. He was saying something to that effect. Like too often the guys will put one hand up and try to swat it when they could put two hands up and intercept it. And our turnover margin is terrible. And the Lions need to do something about it. Especially in the red zone, we're really struggling. We're giving up a lot of opportunities on interceptions, batting the ball down. We don't have enough impact plays. And, defending the pass is one, getting the interceptions is another, punching the ball out and forcing some fumbles. I mean, we're just not doing it. And I don't know if they need to go all week with just punching the ball out, all day long in practice to make it, second nature again. But last season, man, it just seems like we were all over it. So Sutton ain't fast enough to take one to the house. I really thought Sutton was a lot faster than he is. But, man, he kind of surprised me in that Packers game on that first play. Like, he was way beat. Yeah, the Bugs mystery, it is distracting. Let's just hope that they move on from it. I hate making Bugs the punching bag for all of these rumors, but at some point, someone's got to speak out about it and just, bury the whole darn thing. But then again, they don't have to do anything either. All right, so let me get into some of my notes here. Let's talk about the defense for the Saints a little bit more. They run a 4-3. That's no secret. The Lions run a 4-3. That's no secret. Where do you think it came from? Well, it came from the Saints. I mean, this defense that AG is running and that Dan Campbell knows very well is from the Saints organization. It's the exact same type of schemes. So Derek Carr is going to know this defense really well. It's only helping us that he doesn't have a whole lot of, weapons this weekend to throw to. So very similar defensive schemes and alignments. Like I said, that both Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell are, expats of the Saints organization. I expect the Lions should have an edge here. But then again, like I said, so should the Saints. We could see an offensive game on both sides of the ball because of this. And that's only if, one, Olave's in. And if Alvin Kamara can somehow find a way to run on this run defense, then we could have a game. The Saints run defense hit a season low, though, in last Sunday's loss. They allowed the Falcons to rush for 228 yards. That is the most they've allowed a team to rush against them this entire season. It is an area that the Saints defense has struggled with for 2 straight seasons since being a top 4 run defense in 2021. Apparently, it's crept up again. And the Saints defense will be tested, of course, this Sunday by our Lions rushing attack and our dynamic duo, which ranks 6th in rush offense in the league, featuring the One Pride Express with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm expecting both these guys to have a great game. I think that we should see at least 2 TDs on the ground, if not 3. And I think, combined, these guys should put up at least 160 yards on the ground, if not more. Don't know if they're going to, break out to the tune of what the Falcons did. But we'll see. We've done it once this season. We might be able to get 2 guys over 100 yards in this game. Phil, that's a great point, man. The teams are very similar. And the defenses obviously are very similar. The good news is that our team is pretty darn healthy. I mean, aside from Anzalone, we lost Vaitai, but, what did he really do for us this season? We don't really have any glaring Injuries at this point. Chris also says Kamara catching out of the backfield is what scares me, not so much as running down our throat. I could agree with that, man, except that they've had so much success in the outside zone and they have nothing in the middle. And where we usually get beat is on the outside, it seems like, at least by mobile quarterbacks. And I'm going to go into a couple of things. I don't want to spill all my beans, but the Lions need to do something very specific this weekend, just in my opinion. Tell me what you think, and we'll get to that in just a minute here. So third down, this is where I see the Lions having success and or trouble this Sunday. Third down is going to be a tough matchup with the Saints' 9th-rated third down defense. The Lions are completing 42.8% of third down tries right now. So the Lions are going to have to figure out a way to convert. And, how do they manage it? In my opinion, is that you want to eliminate the third down, right? As much as possible. I think all teams want to do that. And, your second down play needs to be a deeper pass to get beyond the sticks, or a play with a higher success rate to gain the yards needed to get a first down. Pass it on first. If it's second and short, you run the ball. If you run the ball on second, then you run it on first the next series, then pass it on second. Ben's got to mix it up, but the one thing that we're not seeing this season is we're not seeing a ton of deep balls on second down. We're not seeing a ton of deep balls on first down. We're not even seeing an intermediate ball coming out on first down. I would love to see our Lions finally utilize the weapons that we have. J-Mo is finally getting his confidence. Why not put him out there and see what he can do on first down? I don't see any reason why we don't start throwing the ball on first down. Why not? Get ahead of the sticks. Then you pound it. I don't know. But in my opinion, the way that they manage it this weekend is very simple. You try to eliminate the third down as much as possible. Obviously, if you're in a third and short and you're above the 50 and you're on the opposite side, you're going to go for it. We just know that Dan Campbell's going to do that. So don't get into a rut, of run on first, run on second, pass on third. It's too easy to identify. And then you go for it on fourth, right? I mean, that's just been their way the last couple of weeks. Mix it up, get beyond the sticks early, and then get downfield. Score quick, get a commendable lead. Then you run the ball the rest of the way. You pound it down their throat, but the goal is don't ever take the foot off the gas. Keep scoring. All too often we see the Lions get a lead, and it's like they try not to score. Well, you should still want to score. Don't worry so much about the clock because the points will take care of all that. Even if they go back down and score, I mean, the game's back at, where it was a few moments ago. Now take the clock again and start chewing it up. I just don't want to see them take their foot off the gas. Just get the lead, keep on going. Phil says, when did we stop thinking outside the box? I don't know, because it seems like the last 3 games we kind of gotten our butts kicked. The Chargers, we got out and got a quick lead. They made adjustments at halftime. We didn't. Chargers almost came back and beat us. Bears game, we got outplayed from the very beginning, and we never made the adjustments. So to me, that's not thinking outside the box. Now, in the previous games to the Chargers, you saw Ben Johnson mixing it up all the time, and I applauded him for it. I mean, there was different play after different play after different play. Matter of fact, I think it was the Falcons game. Is that the game that we handed it off to? I think it was. We handed it off to Gibbs like 7 times in a row to start the game. Something crazy like that. That's not really mixing it up, but it was totally unexpected. So that's what I mean by, got to mix it up. Got to think outside the box. But the number one goal is don't stop scoring. Just keep pushing the ball down the field. Don't worry about the clock so much. Red zone. This is another area that the Saints have a surprisingly good red zone defense. Their defensive rank doesn't speak to all the ways that the Saints control the box from the 20-yard line in, but the Lions need to attack from the 25 and throw some balls into the end zone. Here's my question to you guys. How many times have you seen Goff throw into the end zone this season from outside the 20-yard line? I'll keep waiting because I can't tell you, maybe a couple. I haven't seen a whole lot of plays thrown into the end zone. And I said this a few weeks ago. It seems like we get to the red zone, we want to run the ball to the goal line, and we want to run it in. Yes, we have thrown the ball. Yes, unless you have a long, 75-yard play for Montgomery for a touchdown, or, a deep pass to Laporta a few times that have scored. We're not getting outside the red zone around the 25 and taking a couple of shots at the end zone. The ball is always thrown inside, or outside of the end zone, and then we've got to run it in. So I'm looking to see us finally get downfield. Now, JMO's got a couple of TDs. I think I just saw that. Full slate farms, both JMO TDs. Yep. Those are thrown outside, but that's only 2. And then you got one Laporta, one for sure. And those are long plays. I'm talking about 25-yard line. 25-yard line and in, where we're actually firing it towards the end zone as opposed to dinking and dunking it all of our, the entire way, all the way up. More skipper in motion, please. Please, no. That's thinking outside the box, just the wrong box. JMO will score with laundry on the field. Yeah, that seems to happen way too much. All right, so the next topic is clean game for Goff. Look, we've got to have it. The last 2 games have been rough on this offensive line and on Goff. So the Saints have been terrible at getting to the quarterback this season, and they rank 30th in sacks. Goff should have a pretty clean game, staying in the pocket, picking apart the Saints defense, if that remains true this game. The difficulty is that this defense is loaded with ball hawks. Goff needs to stay clean, but he also needs to have a clean game, delivering the ball to the right team on Sunday. And I think we'll be all right. He kind of, I think he wore himself out on turning the ball over. 3 picks, 3 fumbles, back-to-back games. He's got to have 0 in this game. He has to. Lauren McQuaig says, I think JMO is ready for the deep threat. Would like to see him get targeted 6 times or more. Me too. Let's see if his confidence is where we think it is. Because that last game, I really felt something different from JMO. The excitement on his face, I mean, you could see it. And he felt, like he arrived is the way that he kind of made us feel through the TV, like he arrived. It's just, the kid was elated. I was happy for him. I think that he's finally starting to get it together. And let's just hope that he does. Let's just hope he keeps, that trajectory going north. Chris says, if Goff, is Goff ready for JMO's lightning speed? If he arcs it for torque with decent spiral. Yeah, I mean, Goff still has an arm. I think I said it the other day that there was only 3 types of quarterbacks ahead of Jared Goff in the arm speed ranking. And it was, of course, Matt Stafford. But then you had Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Mahomes. Those are the only 4 quarterbacks ahead of Goff. And this test was done like 4 seasons ago or something like that. And his ball speed was like 54, 55 miles an hour. Top speed for this was against all the quarterbacks in the league at that time. Top speed was, I think, 59 or 60. So he's only, 4, 5, 6 miles separated per hour from the top throwing arms in the league. Now, there was about 30 quarterbacks below Goff. Goff is in the top, top 10. It's something that people just don't realize, that he has a really good arm. He just looks slow because he's so long, and he has a very long mechanic, that long throwing arm. Usually you see that in a pitcher, but he's just got long arms. Next up is nostalgia. I told you I put it in here. I hope this game isn't too big for Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn. I wouldn't think that it is. They're heading back to their former employer and managing that kind of stress and what comes along with it, and wanting to put on a show and wanting to win. Sometimes it can just be too much. You try to do too much. You try to install too much, and you get a little OCD about it. So I hope it's not too big for him. It shouldn't be. But let's just hope that they're going to go in and get the job done. Goff doesn't constantly throw wobblers, man. When he's under pressure, everybody throws a wobbler here or there. He throws some dimes. He's been one of the most consistent, accurate quarterbacks in the league for years. Jack Campbell is my next point. We talked about it earlier, but Jack, he's kind of the wild card in this game. And I only say that because he's got to step into a new role, something that he's played before, but he really hasn't had a ton of time in this season. And I hope that AG sets him up in a defense that he can manage. And like I said, just a minute ago, try not to install too much. Dan Campbell made it a point, I believe it was on Friday after the Thanksgiving Day game, that they felt like they installed too much before the Thanksgiving Day game, and it might have just been too much for the guys, and they clearly didn't play well. So let's just hope that they don't do that to this guy and put this kid inside of a mess. The Lions would be wise to, in my opinion, show more of a 5-4 front. I would love to see the 5-4 with extra DBs, not so much extra edge rushers or extra linebackers, extra DBs. I want to see the DB blitz. I want to see the linebacker blitz. If our edge rushers can't get home, they're getting pressure. They're not getting the right kind of pressure, right? They're not having good effect. If they're not having good effect in this game, AG's got to say, all right, enough's enough. Aiden and whoever's on the other side, you guys just need to stay home and protect the run in the outside zone. I'm going to send Jack, or I'm going to send Brian, or whoever, and we're going to get after the quarterback that way. We haven't seen it happen. We've seen a few DB blitzes. We've seen a few linebacker blitzes, and I believe Anzalone has a few sacks out of it, but we're not seeing enough. Yeah, Chris says that start sending Branch back there. He 100% can get it done. Full Slate Farm says Jack Campbell is a 10. Ref needs to get fined for bad calls. Yeah, I'd say so. We've seen a lot of bad calls. I mean, in every game this year, there's been some bad calls. Lauren McQuaig says Jack has made rookie mistakes in pass coverage, but he's been good against the run, and the Saints have to run right into Campbell. The one thing I love about Campbell, man, is he's a sure tackler. He reminds me of a Chris Spielman. Not only the type of size, the body, the frame, but he just kind of has that same kind of tenacity about him. He's a hitter. He's a thumper. But back to what I was saying, I think that the Lions would be wise to show more of a 5-4 front. Why? I mean, again, our defense is a direct playbook from the Saints organization. It's been modified. It's AG's type of system, but they're going to be in a 4-3 the majority of the game, and they're going to be in a nickel the majority of the game. And I think that if we switch to a 5-4, bring in some extra DBs and start blitzing, which we haven't been doing enough, we might be able to get the job done. The other option that has worked very well for us is the nickel defense. I just feel like, again, more DBs in the game, or you bring in an extra linebacker at some point. But this single high safety look that we were using in the beginning of the season, which was working, we haven't been using. We've been back in a 2-deep shell, and we've been getting eaten alive over the middle. So back to the single high safety, 5-4, or the nickel defense, and do a 2 undershell, get the guys closer to the line. Stop everything from, 17 yards in. Well, I don't know why we're worried about the big, deep threat, big, deep ball, especially against the Saints this weekend. I don't think that we should be. Olave, if he's in, is going to be the only person that's going to be able to really go deep on us. So we'll see what happens. All right, I'll keep motoring here. Saints run game. Saints are 19th in the league and averaging 104 yards a game on the ground. The Lions have had a solid run defense the majority of the season. They cannot allow the Saints to abandon the pass, which they will. They're going to have to. Again, assuming Olave isn't in, or to injury, because Thomas is out too. And, allow the Saints to beat us on the ground. We can't. Alvin Kamara leads the team with 457 yards on the ground in 8 games since returning from suspension. He has been pretty explosive. He's got rare vision and balance. He can also pick up yards between the tackles, but he's only averaging 3.8 yards per carry. And he's only been getting he has only one outing over 75 yards this season, 80 rushing. So with that said, there's been no inside run for the Saints for the majority of this season. The lack of an inside run for the Saints team has been pretty much their struggle all season. In the red zone, it can be attributed to an ineffective offensive line. New Orleans has had much better success with off-tackle runs behind their right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk, who was on the injury list this week, and their left tackle, Andres Pete. But knowing this, you would think that the Lions would be on high alert this Sunday, right? Alert, alert, that the Saints will be running outside. So stack the box. Again, go to the 5-4. Bring in a nickel, stack the box. Look for the Saints to attack, with Kamara and Hill both on the edge. And I expect them to be using some trickery in this game when Hill's in the game. Honestly, it's where their running game has had the most success this season. So if you know that they're getting really good success on the outside, then they shouldn't get anything on the outside this weekend. They just shouldn't. So unless they're really dialing up some confusing disguises for the Lions that they're not able to read, which they should because it's their defense, and they should understand that kind of offense, then, they go against the same defense every day in practice, right? The Saints are going up against their own type of defense. So the Lions defense should be able to do very well against this if they just follow the protocol that says this is how you stop an outside zone and stack it. Just stack the box and let the rest play out. Campbell can get lateral quickly, and I'm not worried about that. He's a sideline to sideline guy. All right, so Lauren McQuaig says, well said. It's hard to blitz with shotgun, quick deliveries, but if we take the short game away, send them in. That's the other thing. Last week when I said that I wish I was seeing more shotgun out of Goff against the Packers. Now, we were in the shotgun more, but we just didn't see, like Lauren's saying, is the quick deliveries. Goff, he didn't even have that much time. He didn't even have 2.5 seconds. But you saw that Jordan Love had over 3 seconds the entire game on average. So that's that can't happen. We can't see that happen with Derek Carr this weekend. We just can't. Derek should be eating dirt from the first snap. All right, I got 2 more. Taysom Hill continues to be the offense's best power runner. Hill has 287 yards on the ground and a team high 3 rushing scores. Most of his runs come when he lines up in the Wildcat. It telegraphs the team's intentions. Now, if I know this, you would think that the Lions would know this, and Jack has to identify it, and he's got to call it. But Hill's combination of power and burst to the second level still makes him very difficult to stop. I don't care who you are. Hill is a beast. Last guy we know very well, Jamal Williams. He's been really ineffective this season. He hasn't had a great season. He really misses our offensive line. But the former Lions running back, Jamal Williams, who signed this offseason to be really the power, complement to Kamara. We know what he did last year, right? He had 1,000 yards plus. He had 17 TDs. He's only had 147 yards this season and no touchdowns for the Saints in 7 games this season. So he's missed a few games with injury. He's averaging 2.9 yards a carry. So really ineffective, but it's an ineffective offensive line because Williams was a between the tackles runner. He was not so much an outside zone runner, and they're not having any success in the middle. So if Williams isn't having success in the middle, Kamara's having success on the outside, it almost makes you think that you could leave the middle alone just a little bit. an attack from the outside. But we'll see. We'll see what the Lions do. You guys have been very active in the chat tonight. I didn't see a ton of questions come through. I just see a lot of statements and you guys communicating well with each other, and I love it. So let me ask you guys a few questions. What do you think about stats for this weekend? Who's going to be our top runner? Who's going to be our top receiver? Given the stats that I've given you, and let me go back to it. The Saints are giving up an average of, where was it? 124 yards a game on the ground and 196 yards a game through the air. Do you see the Lions passing for more than 250 yards this game? And do you see the Lions getting more than 150 yards on the ground, giving the Lions more than 400 yards total? Lions are second, by the way, or they were second. Let me look. Lions are second right now with 405.5 yards per game, 36 TDs on the season. So if they were to get 400 in this game, that would be right in line with their average. And this could be the game to do it because Goff's going to throw for at least 2.25, 250. But it's our run game that, we could really have some opportunity here to really have a great game on the ground. All right. Raymond looked good last week. Mile marker says. I don't know what the last part is, Missley. So glad we traded the Lion King. Who's that? You mean the land before time, Bruce Irvin? Or are you talking about Jamal Williams? Bonnie is a beast, says Chris Mason. All right, so I don't really have much more to go through tonight. So let me open up some phone lines. I know I'm doing a little late. I apologize, but there's the number on the screen. Let me make sure my phone's on. All right, so if someone calls in, I will put everything on hold and bring in the caller and take their questions and just chat about the Lions. So there you go. Phone line's open. You can call 313-312-0348. If you want to call in and talk about the Lions, now's the time to do it. I don't have much more for the show tonight. I really didn't see a ton to get excited about because we need to see these Lions get back on track. And I think that this is the game that they're going to be able to do it. I really do. It's redemption weekend, like I started out with. Goff's got to have a clean game. I think that J-Mo's going to be fairly active in this game. They do have some lockdown DBs. Matter of fact, their depth chart is pretty stacked for the DBs. I think Lattimore's out, though, right? All right, so the Saints have Paulson Adebo, left cornerback, and Isaac Yadam at the right cornerback. Cameron Dantzler as backup on the left side, and Alante Taylor is backup on the right. They're free safeties, though. Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May are the ones that are doing very well this season. Very, very well. I can't believe that Tyrann Mathieu is still playing, to be honest with you. Lions had an opportunity to bring him in. I'm surprised they didn't. Chris Mason says Jahmyr Gibbs 150 yards. So you're taking Jahmyr over Monty this weekend. I could see it happening. The Saints defensive line, as long as you can stay away from Cameron Jordan and you don't let him affect you, which is going to be very tough. Gibbs can have a phenomenal day on the outside. You almost have to run at Cameron and chip him. You've got to bring your tight end down and block him. And all right, we got a call coming in. I'm going to put it on mute for just a second. All right. I don't know if everybody can hear me, but Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey.
All right.
How y'all doing?
Doing great, Chris. So you're on with Rock Down Detroit Lions. What do you want to talk about tonight?
I just wanted to say this is going to have to be a get right game, especially there's not so many games left going into the playoffs. The Saint team could be also a playoff team winning their division, so we have to take care of business. That's about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, you're right about one thing. The Saints are still fighting for their division, and that's what's going to keep them awake on Sunday. And I'm expecting a little bit of a dogfight. So who do you think is going to be our best offensive player this weekend?
I'm thinking Saint about 150 with a couple TDs.
That's a huge game, and he can do it. Yeah. He can do it. You think J-Mo's gonna get some action?
Yeah, I think he'll be the X factor if he can get in pace in sync with Goff. It'll be amazing.
No wobblers though. So, we can't have any wobblers.
Hey, this O-line is going to look good this week, so I'm thinking Goff will at least have 2.5 seconds to throw the ball. So
I hope so.
If it goes from the shotgun, should be at least one TD for J-Mo. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for calling in, Chris. Appreciate you.
Okay. You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye. We heard from Chris. St. Brown's going for $150 this weekend. If you guys want to call in and put your thoughts on the air, now's the time. 313-312-0348. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes, so we're going to leave the phone lines open. Apologize, I got it open a little late, but Mile Marker 301 asks, is Green playing wide receiver in this game? I don't think so. I thought Green just got bounced down to the practice squad, didn't he? They brought in Tom Kennedy. What did they do with Green? I don't know. But I thought I read something that he got bounced down to the practice squad, which would be interesting. And Phil says, why not try Stephen Gilmore? And that's at DB. So I'm not real sure, Phil. I don't know. I mean, I think we got our guys, the guys that they want. I don't know that Stephen Gilmore is going to be an upgrade. Of course, just about anybody's an upgrade over Will Harris at this point. But that's another question. We really haven't talked a lot about, the Lions not taking opportunity. They had an opportunity to sign Barrett, Leonard, Marcus Peters. And are any of you upset that the Lions didn't take that opportunity? We really could have. Look, culture, attitude, locker room, I get it. They want a very descriptive and certain eclectic locker room in Detroit. They want to change things. They want the culture to stay where it's at. They want the locker room to stay intact. But going back to the Bugs thing, maybe there is some issues in the locker room. You guys probably all seen the video that I put up, with Kirby Joseph. And who knows? Maybe there's something going on in the locker room. And that's why they didn't make any other moves. They didn't want to bring anybody else in because they're dealing with a few things. So I'm not totally sure why we're not making the moves to upgrade this team. We had a few options to do it. Yeah, I know Marcus Peters really isn't the answer, but he's definitely an upgrade over Will Harris. So why not do it? But to your point, Phil, why not Stephen Gilmore? Stephen Gilmore. Stephen, sorry, not his brother. You would almost think that you could just give him a shot, especially in this game. Thomas is out. Wait and see what happens with Olave. If Olave's out, maybe you activate Stephen for the game and hope that he gets in. Chris says MCDC's number one guy is Will Harris. Man, Will's got to be gone. So I'm going to be doing a show here. Probably just a video. I might do another live, but I'm going to do a full breakdown of our pending free agents. I started with DBs and D-line. And the next one, I think I'm going to do the rest of the defense. I'm going to do linebackers and probably talk more about the offense because there's a lot of interesting opportunity coming up for this Lions team. We got about 40 guys signed for next season, which is the most that I've seen in a long time. And the Lions are looking at about 70 million in cap space next year. So I think that we're going to fill a lot of holes. And I guess to really end this show tonight, the one thing that I'm real excited about is where this team is headed. We're about a half a season ahead of ourselves. And if you think about it, that puts us at the next draft. And once they get through their fourth draft and they've been able to select their own team, more than 25 players they will bring in from, year 1 till year 4. I think that's when we're going to see the biggest jump in play. They're going to have an incredible offseason. I think that they're going to find some studs to help fill in, but we've got some big holes coming up. If you remember from the D-line and DB show, if you guys were in, or the video, that we have 12 holes just on the DB line, the DBs and the D-line. 12 holes to fill this offseason with contracts that are coming up. And quite honestly, there are a lot of guys that you probably wouldn't want to come back. I mean, there's a couple that you definitely want to bring back, but based on their play this season, I don't think anyone's mad if they walk. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I can tell you this, no matter what happens this season, I always planned on next season being the season. And we'll see. Maybe it's just my, Lion fandom. It's always next season. But this has been a great season so far, and I think the Lions are really going to do well and finish strong. I can't tell you the last time we've gotten an email from the Detroit Lions organization about securing your playoff tickets. So it kind of changes things for once. Phil says Brad signs hurt guys to 1-year contracts. I think that he's done that because of the cap issue that we were in. And I think he's also done that so that we don't commit a bunch of cap. And I'm going to go over all this in this next show. He doesn't commit a bunch of cap for years down the road because look at what we have next season now. Because he did all those 1-year contracts, we now have 70 million in cap space and 40 guys signed. So he's been doing it right. And our financial team, I say our, like I work for the team. The Lions financial team is excellent. They're phenomenal with contracts. And we're finally starting to see some of these unique contracts in Motown where we never used to. We never used to use void years. We're starting to see that. And it's really smart because it's opening up the pocketbook for that season or the next season. And next year, they're finally in the best position they've ever been in with barely $1 million in dead cap right now. We are going to go through the Saints like a goose on December 25th. There you go. I don't eat goose, but maybe someday. All right, y'all. I think that's it for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And as always, I really appreciate everyone. You guys are truly the sponsors and supporters of this channel. And couldn't do it without you guys. We don't ask for much. We don't really ask for anything other than if you're new to the channel and you want to get more of this type of content. There's about 200 videos on our channel. Go ahead and look below. If you guys haven't subscribed, come on in. Join the Rock On Detroit Lions. We've got some new shows coming up pretty soon, and we're excited about it. We're going to be doing some new podcasts all in time, but we're going to be adding a few more channels, and in the off season, we're going to be adding a few more people. So it's going to be just like the Lions, man. Our trajectory is only going up. And we appreciate you guys. We're glad to have you around. We've got some excellent, people that come back every single show, and we couldn't, we couldn't do it without you. So that's it for today. We'll be back on Sunday after the game, and then I'll do the halftime show which is like a 15-minute halftime show breakdown, just kind of what's going on. And who knows, maybe I'll do a full game live stream. I don't know. We'll see. I try not to compete with everybody else. I try to do things differently, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, it'll pop up on YouTube if we're going to do it. So anyway, hope you all have a great Friday night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go Lions, go One Pride. And until next time, please take care of yourself. All right, bye-bye.
Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. He Sewell on a first down. Oh, the big man dives down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking pressured, hit from behind, taken down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day one.
No respect.